let's go to the second one. This
Ooh,
one
look
is
at
called.
this. This is a nice.
Yeah, it's also still a prototype. This game will not be ready now,
Okay.
unfortunately, to Essen, but it will be produced in November. And it's a very interesting game because it's a little bit different. The twist in this game is it's kind of a worker placement, but also a removal because your pieces are eventually gonna die.
Oh no.
Yeah, it sounds horrible
It does.
in the beginning, but
Yeah,
it's a pretty neat mechanism.
Okay. And so here's our score track. I take it.
That's again the score track. The game is for 2 to 4 players again. It takes about 90 minutes. It can play faster if you know the game. So it's called Village, right?
Yeah.
And this is the village.
Okay.
Also, each player has their own farmyard.
Oh, look at my house.
Around the farmyard, there is a lifetime track running. So you always start there, and sometimes you lose time if you do certain actions in the village, and then you lose. Example here, you have to lose 2 time, and then you move this one forward, and the moment you pass the bridge, one of your people has to die.
One of my people?
Yeah, one of your meeple.
Oh
So,
no.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's
Is
the
this
way
my
life
family
goes.
that's dying?
No, it's not your family.
No, it's just the farm workers.
So you have different pieces. There are some with a 1 and a 2, 3, 4. This
Okay.
means the ones are the oldest. You begin the game with the ones.
Right.
These are eventually the first to die.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Well, it happens.
yeah,
In
exactly.
winter, I guess. You see the seasons, I think, around the
Yeah,
sides. Cool.
You're right. Good observer. So in the village, so there are different areas where you can put your meeples and gain victory points. You have a council chamber, you have a church, you have craft buildings where you can produce goods, which you can later sell at a market. You have a travel where you can go, you can build a wagon and then travel to the next city and there gain points. And you have a chronicle and a little cemetery. So if you have to die, you want to go into the chronicle, of course.
Oh, you don't want to go in the cemetery?
Well, it's okay. The difference is here in the chronicle you gain points at the end of the game. Here you don't.
So the chronicle, you make it in there by doing great things for the village?
Well, each time you pass the bridge, one of your members has to die. Always one with the lowest number. If I place it here and I let it die, it goes into the chronicle. There are spaces related to the location of the board. So this is for the council chamber. If this one dies, it goes here. So there's a space. If the next one dies there, it goes there. Now there is no space left for people from the council chamber because it's always the occupation that is connected to the places, the spaces here in the chronicle.
I see. So those that come before the other ones, typically.
Exactly. The next one who dies here
So it's
can't
the
go there
elders
anymore.
that are kind of in the chronicle.
Goes there. So and there you don't get any points. So that's the main twist of the game. The action mechanism is as follows. Here are spaces which are connected to the actions and the locations of the board.
Okay.
In the beginning, there is a certain number of those cubes. We call them influence cubes, distributed to these action spaces. So they are seated within a certain number, depending on the number of players. So maybe they are like, let's say this. So now, in my turn, I have to take a cube. This cube I can use as a resource. There are 4 resources in the game. I can use them, as you see here, for example, or here, or I need them here. And I take a cube in my turn, put it on my farmyard. This is a resource I can use, and afterward I perform the action from which space I took it. So, for example, this one, when I take from here, this is the family action. It means you get a new family member because a new family member is born. So you get the next one with a 2 onto your farmyard.
It's an action. All right.
So and yeah, it's an action. You only have to take a cube, and there it is.
That's okay.
The next job. So And each location has this associated space where you take this from. And if there is no cube left, you can't do the action. So you have to have a certain timing. If you want to do the action, you have to do it early before somebody else does it, and you can't do it anymore.
So these will be filled with colors at the start.
They are seeded at the beginning of a round, so in the beginning of the game. Then in your turn, you always have to take one of these. So they're going to be less and less, and in the
end,
they are none at all. Then a new round starts, so they are reseeded.
Okay.
So it's about 5 rounds usually. So this the board is reseeded about 4 or 5 times in the game.
Okay.
And it's a lot about timing, because sometimes you have to decide: do I want my people to die early to gain space here, or do I want them to remain in the village to give me points at the end of the game? Because, for example, here you get 6 points if your meeple stands there at the end of the game. But if it died, it can be there, right?
So these are the costs associated, and these are what you get from it.
For example, so every location is a little bit different.
Right.
Here you have the travel. If you travel from the village to the next village, you have to pay whatever is there. So time and the brown cubes, for example, are faith. So it's an influence cube called faith. And
you're just setting out on the road.
Exactly.
Going places. Okay. That's and then so each one has their own little directions for what's going to happen if you do.
Exactly. And for example, here you have the possibility either to use a meeple and lose time, or to pay cubes. So you can decide for yourself: do I want my people to die faster, or do I want to use the cubes without losing much time?
So you could use the cubes and not put a person there?
Exactly. These two options you have if you use these buildings. Here you have this too. You can give a cube or lose the time. So you can decide for yourself: do I want my people to die faster, or don't die?
Okay. And then this looks like fun.
Well, this is because when a cube is taken, then you can't perform the action anymore, because as long as the cubes are gone, you can't do it. This action allows you to do it anyway, but then you have to have 3 of one kind.
Oh, that's not
to
easy.
pay. It's quite a lot, but if you have to do the action, you probably do it. Toward the end of the game, you have more cubes, and then it's okay, usually.
Okay, and how does this advance again?
Every time you lose time. So, example, if you go from the village to the
it's just a cost.
It's a cost that you lose time here,
I see.
or you pay it here. It's like a currency, the currency time. Here you can pay time too. So, eventually, your people are going to die.
Okay, and so then a basic turn plays out like.
The basic turn is really taking a cube, doing the action of this space. Just one. Every time you always take 1 cube from a space, and you do the action of the space. You don't have to do it, but you can. So a turn is pretty quick, because you just do this, take a family member, and then your turn is over. The next person is.
Okay, so in the beginning
turn.
it's more accumulating probably, and then towards the end it's more actually doing.
Well, you can always, because if you take a family member, a new one, these actions are faster, then you can gain cubes to later in the round do the other actions.
I see.
So it's always like, if you have the right timing, you can do a lot.
Okay.
Even in the beginning.
Very cool. So I think, and there aren't any there aren't any special rules that apply.
Well, each location kind of has a special
its own special rules.
So it's difficult to say there's one special rule. It's one whole. It all works together, because it's logical. There are quite some rules to learn in the beginning. So in the first game, you really have to explain. Of course, here you can do this, here you can do that, there that. But after this, it really has a flow, because everything is pretty logical. Here, if you, for example, if you place here a meeple, you have to train it first.
Exactly.
Then it can produce something with time. Next time you use the action, your meeple is already trained. If it's still there, then you just have to pay whatever you have to produce it. So it is
really logical.
and it's that gives a very nice flow.
Yeah, that makes it
good.
a lot easier to explain too. Because when you look at it, you're like, wow, it's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
going on here. But
Exactly. Yeah.
as far as like being in a village goes, not that I've ever lived in one, but apparently this seems about the way it would
Yeah,
work.
Orlando.
So, well, very cool. Thank you so much for showing this to us.
You're welcome.
And for coming out and bringing these games. And we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.